Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur. He is also an experimental test pilot, Air Force examiner and UN soldier, ex-ADG Center for Air Power Studies. Welcome to WION, sir.
Thank you.
Now, first up, US President Donald Trump has offered F-35 stealth fighter jets to India, considered to be the world's most advanced fifth-generation fighter jet. At this point of time, do you think that it is perhaps the best purchase for India's national security, and does it fulfill our Indian Air Force's needs?
Let's get one thing clear. When you read the joint communique, it says that the Americans will review their policy on transferring the F-35 to India. Now, there is many a slip between the cup and the lip when you're talking of diplomats or diplomatic language. So yes, President Trump has offered that in his bite, but doesn't say that in the joint communique as such. Be that as it may, the F-35 is a modern, very, very modern aircraft, and costly too. And it's one generation straight jump for the Indian Air Force. It would be if it comes in. So I'm sure the Air Force planners would have a lot on their hands when they do this, because they will have to integrate American technology with basically the Russian system, the air defense system that we have. So that is where it stands right now. It's a very modern aircraft, and it will be a big jump for India.
Right, so you do speak of how F-35 is a modern aircraft and it comes at a hefty price. Now, we also have to talk about how the US sells its fighter jets with conditions, unlike the French and the Russians. And we have seen how the geopolitical equation keeps on changing. In that light, how do you see New Delhi opting for F-35, which, like you also mentioned, comes at a hefty price?
This would perhaps be the first, and I repeat, the first fighter aircraft from the US to enter the Indian Air Force inventory. We've had the French, the Russian, of course, and the British aircraft with us, but no American aircraft. So there is a history behind it, starting from 1962 war onwards, when we wanted to buy American fighters, but there were strings attached. And the MiG-20, the Russians offered us the MiG-21 without any strings attached. And then we know how the MiG family thereafter made its base in the Indian Air Force, starting with the MiG-21. So we would really have to see what conditions are attached. Will there be only economic, monetary conditions, or there would be other things? History says that the Americans, like any other country, are very sensitive to their geopolitical needs. Please do remember that when we had the Pokhran II in 1998, the nuclear blast, the first country to impose sanctions were the Americans. And then the Navy, which had the Sea King helicopters, made by the British under license from America, from Sikorsky. They put an embargo, and naval helicopters were on ground, absolutely, because no spares would come up. So all these things would have to be weighed. Having said that, there has been a change in the past decade or so. We have transport aircraft and helicopters with us. In fact, our transport aircraft inventory is now basically American, C-17, C-130J, Chinook helicopters, the Apaches. So we have moved in that direction. I'm sure the diplomats are doing their job to make sure that our interests are safeguarded.
Right. You mentioned that if the deal goes through, the F-35 would be the first American fighter aircraft to enter India. We do know that Russia is, as of now, currently India's biggest defense partner. With this offer by Trump, do you think that Trump is perhaps nudging India to become United States of America's biggest defense partner?
The point is that in terms of monetary numbers, the Russians are far ahead. It's just not the Air Force. The Army, the Navy, and the Air Force are basically have their major equipment from the Soviet Union or the Russian background. So just this one buy will not nudge us away, because the Indian Air Force will continue to have the Mirages from the French stable, the Jaguars, continuing to be with us. So it'll not be. It'll just be a little shift to the American side. Seeing it another way, the levers of coercion could go a little more into the Americans' hands, because the F-35 would then be a frontline fighter for us. So we have to play our cards carefully, safeguarding our interests.
Right, so thank you so much for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us on this story.